Welcome into Tuesday Night Takes. I'm here with my friend Nathan. Nathan, how are you doing this week?
Fantastic. It's spring break. I get a break from school and a break from work.
That is a great sign there. We're going to go through we didn't have an episode last week. We are waiting on all the free agency news to just compile because we knew it absolutely would compile. And it has. A lot of things have happened in 2 weeks. I mean, free agency opening, all the moves possible. Everything at this point. There's not much left to happen. I mean, there's a couple old vets out there that might be interesting, but not much. Today, we're going to go through every single NFL team's free agents and decide what is the best move for each team, what they've done so far, and also give our top 3 moves overall of free agency. So let's get right into it. Starting off with the Arizona Cardinals. I'll let you start here. What do you think has been their best move so far this offseason?
Man, they've done a lot, but nothing too big, honestly. Judging by this little list right here I'm looking at, they've signed about 12 or 14 players so far, but none of them are big time impact guys. They signed Jonah Williams to a 2-year, $30 million contract. I don't know. That's probably just them overpaying so they can get somebody to play left tackle. I'm not a huge fan of that for $15 million a year. I mean, if we're talking skill wise, the best player they've brought in, I don't know. It'd probably have to be Sean Murphy Bunting. It's not a bad signing. He's not a great player. I don't know if he's quite the same as he was back whenever the Bucks had their Super Bowl run with him. He was a pretty impactful player for the Bucks, but getting him for $25 million over 3 years certainly isn't bad given the lack of depth that they have back there in the secondary at corner.
Yeah, I do have one thing I'll say. I think Jonah Williams is actually the right tackle at this point. I think they're going to try to bounce Paris over to the left side since that's what he played in college. But either way, that's at least what it shows on the depth chart as I pulled it up to check on. Sean Murphy Bunting is he's up there. He's definitely one of their top 2 moves if you ask me. But I think a really sneaky good signing is DJ Dallas. They got him for 3 years and only are paying $8.25 million total. That's going to be what? 2 and some change every year. And for a backup, a guy like James Conner being their starter, he's really solid, but we all know that James Conner every single year experiences some time where he's not on the field. And DJ Dallas has proven to at least be able to do some things here and there for the Seattle Seahawks. I think it's a really good pickup for them, at least for some depth and something behind James Conner. Because before that, DeMarcado was about their best guy after that. I think Dallas is a bit of a step up from there.
Yeah, solid third down back.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go on to Atlanta, and we'll just keep going right through this list. As we go back and forth, you can just feel free to jump right on through it.
Yeah, I mean, pretty easy one here. Their best signing's probably going to be Kirk. They finally get a franchise quarterback to come in there for them ever since Matt Ryan's retirement, not his retirement necessarily, since he left to go play for the Colts for a year. But I mean, they've got a talented roster and they've got talented guys on that offense who over the past few years, they've just not been able to get the most out of because of either, you could say, a little bit of schematical issues with their coaches and their play calling, but mostly due to their lack of talent at quarterback. So now that they've got a guy, a seasoned veteran in there who can really efficiently work an offense, you're gonna hopefully we'll see more out of Kyle Pitts. You'll hopefully see Drake London rise up and evolve a little bit as a receiver, and hopefully we'll see a little bit more out of Bijan. But that's really big for them in their division because that really separates them from the rest of the teams there, the Saints, Bucks, and the Carolina Panthers. So they'll battle with the Bucks a little bit, but I like where the Falcons are at with that signing.
Yeah, before I get into mine, I just want to say I'm almost to 1,000 subs on my channel. Maybe we're at that point by the time this video goes live, but help me get there if not. And if I am already there, let's keep the growth going. Help me out there. But going to the Atlanta Falcons, for me, I actually don't particularly love the Cousins deal. I mean, at a glance, quarterback needed a good quarterback, no doubt about it. You're the best one in the division now. That all looks great. But 4 years, what is that? $45 million a year for a 36-year-old quarterback off an Achilles. That's pretty rough. And there's a difference to me between him and Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins he's Kirk Cousins, which is good, but it's not Aaron Rodgers. So it's not my favorite. I don't think it's the most bad thing I've ever seen, but to me, I really like the Rondale Moore acquisition it's a trade. It's not a signing, but happened during the free agency period. You got him for Desmond Ridder, a guy that you just don't really care about anymore. You were going to have Taylor Heineke be your backup. What do you lose? You get a solid gadget guy for a team that needed some receiving help, some threats on the outside. You get something like that for a guy you weren't even going to use or going to look at probably for the most of next season at all. He wasn't even going to hold the clipboard. That's Heineke's job. So I just think that's a really good pickup in general.
Yeah. Kirk's expensive, but it's just the going rate for a starting quarterback nowadays in the NFL.
Right. Going on to Baltimore. What you got?
Yeah, they've been a little bit quiet in free agency, aside from their one move to bring in Derrick Henry, 2 years, $16 million. Other than that, for the most part, they've just brought guys back, and everybody would say that the Derrick Henry signing's big time for them. I don't know that it's as big of a signing as people might make it out to be, because he's already, coming into his age 30 season.
Yes.
He's a bigger running back. He's had a ton of carries since he's came into the league. So
Right.
I don't know how productive he'll be. He'll get a lot of touches in that offense, but my favorite signing for them is going to be Justin Madubuike, bringing him back for 4 years, $98 million. That's a lot. That's a lot of money for a interior D lineman. But I mean, he earned it last year. He was one of the top. I think he was either first or second team All Pro. And even prior to his breakout season last year, he proved to be certainly a very solid piece of that defense. But making sure you get a dominant interior D lineman back long term is very important. It's not every day you come across guys like him who can be strong and effective against the run and as a pass rusher. So that's big time for them to get him back.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid one. I am going to go with just Derrick Henry's 2 years, 16. I mean, it's really solid. Granted, he's 30. Granted, every running back for the Baltimore Ravens just has their ACL chopped off in the first 3 weeks of the season. So you can only expect that from Derrick Henry, too, at age 30. But either way, since I didn't take too long on that one, I'm going to go straight into the Bills here. For me, they have released about everyone on that team that is not named Josh Allen or Deion Dawkins or Stephon Diggs. Everyone else is gone. But bringing in a few different guys. Like one of them I really like here. Looking through, I really do like the signing. I'm going to go kind of 2 for 1 here. Mac Hollins and Curtis Samuel. For the last few years, you've not had really anyone outside of Stephon Diggs as a receiving threat. And yeah, he might be gone too. Who knows? But I just think at this point, having depth, Mac Hollins is now your 3, Curtis Samuel being your 2. You have Kincaid, you have Knox, you have Diggs. That's at least some things going on in the receiving areas. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I'm a tag up with you there on the Curtis Samuel. I'm more of a fan of that one than the Matt Collins deal, even though Curtis Samuel's going to be getting more money for sure. He's just a more talented player. But no, it's a great signing for them to have a guy that you kind of have doing the extra gadget receiver stuff, and you can let Stephon Diggs kind of be more so of your alpha. But yeah, just to give Josh Allen another weapon out there at receiver. Like you were saying, you've got Stephon Diggs and Dalton Kincaid there now. And so bringing in Curtis Samuel and then maybe drafting another receiver in the top 2 or 3 rounds would really that'd be big time. That'd be big time for Josh Allen in that offense. So long as that offensive line can block well enough for him.
Right. Yeah. We're going on to the Carolina Panthers now. We're going to go through this relatively quickly, I'll say, just because there's 32 teams to get through here. I think it's got to be getting receiver Deontay Johnson from the Steelers. They didn't give up too much. I mean, they have some corner depth. They gave up a starting corner, but, like I said, they're fine there. They bring in a replacement for him anyways. But Deontay Johnson is he's a solid receiver. You're not going to say he's a 1, but he's probably a decent 2. And he's the kind of receiver that's going to help Bryce Young out a ton. He's going to be open almost every play. If you see him in a scheme that is anything that's not under Matt Canada, he's going to be open. I mean, because that's just because Matt Canada knew how to telegraph every play to the other team. But either way, this is going to be a really, really helpful receiver to Bryce Young just because of the type of guy this is. The routes he runs are crispy. He's going to be open at all times.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that one too. It's good for them to dish out money to some offensive linemen. However, they paid an awful lot for 2 guards. So the Deontay Johnson move is gonna be my favorite move of theirs as well. You know, to be able to give up a solid number 2 corner who's getting up there in age a little bit, not too old, but you know, to your number 1 priority right now is to put the guys around your rookie quarterback Bryce Young so that he can succeed as quickly as possible. And so to get another guy at receiver like Deontay Johnson, who has cut out a role for himself in this league by getting open, that's going to be big time for a young quarterback who is progressing and learning how to be a professional quarterback pretty much.
Yeah, we're going to move on to a very big one here in the Chicago Bears. Excuse you. But this one, you could go a lot of directions here. I'm going to go with the route of DeAndre Swift for 3 years, $24 million for the Bears. Not only is it a position of need in a running back spot with some talent, previously Khalil Herbert, he's a fine number 2 back, but he's not a guy to be your 1. Swift can be your 1, and also he does everything that helps a quarterback out. Going in, with now that they've traded Fields, you're going to get Caleb Williams, a guy to be able to consistently turn around and hand the ball off to in DeAndre Swift, and also to check a ball down to in a passing game. It's a ton of help for a rookie quarterback in general.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to be really helpful for them. They're kind of shallow back there, running back. I'm going to go with the other offensive weapon that they acquired, Keenan Allen, for a couple of reasons. One, a little bit more indirect, but you know, that's just if you're talking security blankets in the NFL, it doesn't get much better than Keenan Allen. So to bring in a guy like that to play alongside DJ Moore and to add him to an offense, my goodness, to add him to an offense with a rookie quarterback, that's going to be big time. That's going to be extremely helpful for those routes over the middle and underneath where you can let DJ Moore be the type of receiver he is downfield. But also, with the Bears, they've got 2 picks in the first round this year. They've got their 1 pick, which is going to be Caleb Williams, and then they've got their pick at 9, who, you know, before free agency, you know, you could see them going multiple different directions, maybe just somewhere on defense, receiver perhaps. I think with bringing in Keenan Allen now, it makes it a lot more clear now that they don't have to figure out, do they need to move around in the draft to figure out where they want to draft a receiver at, or do they want to stick and pick defense? I think it makes it obvious now that they'll stick and pick defense, and it makes it simple for them to just stay there and take whoever the top edge rusher is available at the time. If Dallas Turner falls to 9, excellent. If Jared Verse is there at 9 and Dallas Turner's off the board, take him. But it makes it a lot clearer for where the Bears can go in the first round. That's just a little bit more of an indirect, but he's going to be a super helpful addition for Caleb Williams in his rookie year.
Yeah, absolutely. So going to the Cincinnati Bengals with our next team, you know, they've not really done a lot of super, you know, great things. A lot of depth, a lot of just filling some light holes, but nothing major here. To me, I think the best thing they've done so far, I'd have to say, is potentially getting Zach Moss, 2 years, $8 million, really low number, $4 million a year for a guy who, at his best, can be a really good running back. I mean, we've seen it last year with the Colts, but you know, who knows how good he can be long term as a true starter.
Here, give me just one moment. I'm trying to.
Oh, you're good.
My computer messed up.
No problem.
My computer went a little silly. Yeah, no, they certainly didn't do a ton in free agency. At least nothing profound, and it's to be expected. They've got guys to pay: Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, potentially T. Higgins, as well as some guys on the defensive side of the ball. now that Trey Hendrickson's being paid like a top tier pass rusher. But yeah, the Zach Moss signing, I think that's going to be a very underrated move, given how effective he was with the Colts. But the Geno Stone signing is going to be big for them as well, given the losses that they've had on the back end over the past couple of years. And maybe Dax Hill isn't quite progressing the way that they would hope at safety. They've kind of moved him around a little bit between safety and corner. So bringing Geno Stone in for just $7.5 million a year after the season he had with interdivisional rival, that's another reason that move could be impactful, is getting a little bit of insight for the Ravens. But to get a guy back there at safety who has proven to be an effective player is going to be very helpful for them after they've had some major losses over the past few years, with losing Von Bell and Jesse Bates last offseason.
Right. Yeah, and I'll go ahead and say, if anybody notices, there's a little difference here. It's because we had some technical difficulties, jumped around, we're fixing it. Either way, here we are. Going to the Cleveland Browns now. To me, they've done some decent things here. They also bring in some division rivals. They bring back Zadarius Smith. But I think the best thing they've done is get Jerry Jeudy. I don't remember the exact package they got, but their receiver room was Amari Cooper and then Elijah Moore, I guess. Not the best. Jerry Jeudy is going to give them a really solid number 2 option behind Amari Cooper, ahead of Elijah Moore, and just a really solid upgrade for a position of need. I think they only gave up like a 5th and 6th, maybe, something like that. I just can't remember the exact details, but it's around that ballpark.
Yeah. No, they haven't had many splash moves besides that Jerry Jeudy trade. Bringing back Zadarius Smith could be helpful. Only getting him for 11 or 12 million a year is a pretty good number for them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I mean, the Jerry Jeudy move is obviously the biggest move they've made, and it can prove to be the most impactful. But they got him for a 5th and a 6th for a reason. He's not lived up to the first round hype that the Denver Broncos drafted him at. So, and we know based off the past few years how Deshaun Watson has not quite been the same quarterback that he was in Houston. So it could be a risky move. However, it's low risk because they only had to give up a 5th and a 6th, 2 later round picks. So I like what Cleveland did there with a pretty high upside move with generally low risk involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Next is the Dallas Cowboys, and insert cricket noises here. They're just going to be redacted. I'm going to make an executive decision here that they're going all in, and they've done nothing.
Yeah.
Skipping past that, the Denver Broncos. Not done a lot either. They haven't really been able to be quite honest. But, I think Brandon Jones, getting him, I believe it was out of Miami, it's a solid pickup. All their safeties are all from Texas, interestingly enough. Locke, Jones, and Stearns are all from Texas, so that's what that is. Yeah.
Yeah, if they were going for a Texas safety tandem, then good job. But other than that, they're kind of just going backwards this offseason. I don't really know I guess they're trying to make money by letting go of some guys. However, they're taking a fat cap hit with Russell Wilson, so they got to make money somewhere. But they're another team. They haven't really been. They've been noisy for the not great reasons. Brandon Jones, 3 years, $20 million. Okay, yeah, get a safety. But I don't know. I don't really have a favorite, honestly. I guess by default, Brandon Jones. He's the best player they signed far and away. But I don't love the signing. It's a less impactful position to bring a guy in. So
Sure.
I'm just gonna say NA, not applicable.
Right. I'll go ahead and go to Detroit, but I'll let you take the start on this one. What do you think is the best pickup they've had this offseason?
Yeah, they've also made a lot of signings here. Easily, in my opinion, the best signing they made, that was bringing in DJ Reader. They're a little bit soft up front. Really all around on that defense. I don't think the Lions are content at all with any part of their defense from last season. Secondary, the 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 front seven could have been better as well, all around. And so getting a big old guy like DJ Reader and sticking him in the middle of that defensive line is gonna be a big move for them. But that's just one move that they've got to make in building that defense. And so I think that's a very impactful signing, not just because he's a good player, but it's good to get uh, a bigger guy, a veteran right there in the middle of your defense to really be a leader.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of, I like DJ Reader. I think that is the best move they made. But to switch it up a little bit, I'm going to go with Carlton Davis. Another big need was corner. That was massive for them. And Cam Sutton is solid. Carlton Davis is solid. Neither of them are really a number one, though. I think you're looking for a little more than that. However, he's already him and Cam Sutton are a way better 2-3 than they had last year. They got to figure out a one. Maybe it's going to have to be one of them this year, but they're on a spot where it's going to be a lot better no matter what, just because of the two top guys they have at this point are just way better than the two top guys they had last year. Going to the Green Bay Packers, what do you have here?
Yeah, there's two different ways you could go here. Both of their big signings, of course, being Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney. I'm gonna go with Xavier McKinney though. That's a big time safety. One of the more sought after safeties that were on the market this year. There were a ton of safeties out there to get, but him being one of the more talented as well as one of the younger guys available, makes him a big time get. 4 years, $68 million, 17 a year for a safety is kind of a lot given, like we mentioned earlier, safety's not quite, a super, it's one of the lesser positions on the team in terms of importance and the impact that the safety individually plays on a team. But he's a great player, no doubt. I'd steer away from Josh Jacobs as my favorite, just because he's been up and down a little bit. You can attribute that to being a Raider for his first few years as an NFL player. But 4 years, $48 million is a good amount to commit to a running back. I don't dislike the move necessarily. I don't love it though.
Yeah, I am going to go with Josh Jacobs' deal though, because though it's 4 years, $48 million, they're only guaranteeing $12 million. That is, essentially, if you're breaking it down, it's 1 year's worth of the contract. It's not breakdown like that, but it's still you're not just insuring him a ton of money in a situation where he's going to be able to just be really good potentially, but not pay him that much in terms of guarantees. That's always a good signing. Going down to Houston now, they have made a ton of moves, and I think their best one is definitely Danielle Hunter. 2 years, $49 million, 24.5 a year for a guy who, and that puts him in the pay range of Montez Sweat, Josh Allen, Rashawn Gary. But for a guy who kind of is a tier above those guys, in my opinion, he's at the backside of that TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, and then I think you start, maybe Max Crosby, Danielle Hunter. Not quite where Sweat and all of them are, but a little above. But you're paying him at the same rate. Granted, he's a little older. However, a really good signing for a team trying to just throw in a lot of assets to get a rookie deal quarterback into a really successful place.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Pairing him up with Will Anderson is going to be tough for the teams they're going to be playing this year for the AFC South. For a team like Jacksonville, who is looking for a big year out of Trevor Lawrence this year, this is not the news that he wanted to see coming out of Houston, especially.
Right.
But we saw how their defense played last year with not the most talent by any means. Now I think you're going to see, Danielle Hunter's going to do his thing. You're going to see Will Anderson greatly benefit off of that move.
Absolutely.
And that's gonna help the secondary. It's just watch out for the Texans. That's gonna be a big time move for them.
Yeah, for sure. The Indianapolis Colts are next, and the Colts do the Colts, and that's about it. They don't really sign anyone else ever. But in news for them, they do bring back Michael Pittman, 3 years, $70 million. To me, that is super important. Without Michael Pittman, your receiving room goes way down. Josh Downs had a solid rookie season, but that's just it. I mean, Michael Pittman is a huge jump over whoever else they have. And without him, it would have gotten really dirty there. So keeping him around for the second year or the first real full year of Anthony Richardson, at least in expectation, is going to be very, very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. He's a great receiver for them, being the possession guy that he is, and he's got the size and he's got the ability to just. I mean, he's just automatic. He's gonna play a pivotal role in Anthony Richardson's development, and so he's a guy that you pay what you gotta pay him, and you bring him back. He's not one of the most talented receivers in the league by any means, but for that team, he plays a very, very important pivotal role for that offense, and so he's a guy that, regardless of the price, you want to bring him back.
Yeah, absolutely. Going down to Jacksonville now. This one, they made some signings, but the best one is, I don't know. Could be up for grabs. I really like the addition of Mitch Morse, 2 years, $10 million. He was cut by the Bills because of a cap casualty, basically. I mean, last year, if I'm not mistaken, their center was Luke Fortner. I think that's correct. And he had, whoever their center was, I know the numbers, I just don't remember the name. They had a 88% pass block win rate. That sounds pretty decent, except for the fact that you realize that 12% of the time, he's getting beat. And beat badly. That's not really that good in the grand scheme of things, and if you look at it farther, it's just not a good stat to have. The center to be losing consistently is just not good. That can be turning into 3 to 5 sacks per game, whatever it is, and you're the center. That's not how you want that to go. Mitch Morse is a very solid player, a very good veteran center. You're not getting the best center in the league, but you're getting a very solid upgrade nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure. It just $5.5 million a year. Right. I cannot stop coughing. Excuse me. No, that's a good signing. Eric Armstead is also a pretty solid one. Get an experienced guy up the middle. Man, something about Jacksonville. It seems like every year they dump so much money into free agency, and it just does not quite pan out. Hopefully, it does for them, because I don't want to see Trevor Lawrence fail. But yeah, and it's good for them to be investing in the trenches. Get a nice center to block for your hopefully franchise quarterback, and then you get an experienced guy in Eric Armstead to hopefully clog up the middle of that D line to stop the run. And 17 years, not bad at all. The going rate for these top free agents just gets higher and higher each year. So 17 is not really a number that should be scary to look at anymore. I'd also like to highlight the big time Mac Jones trade. Big time for us Patriots, getting rid of him. Hopefully he revitalizes his career somehow. I don't particularly care if he does. I'm just glad that he's gone.
Yeah, there you go.
Big time trade for us, not so much for them.
There you go. Going down to the Kansas City Chiefs now. They really have not done a whole lot. They've got us some re-signings, but that's about it. I'm going to go with Marquise Brown. 1 year, $7 million for him. I don't think you're happy with him being your slated, wide receiver 1 or really even 2. But, I mean, the position is a position of need, one way or another. You get a warm body, and a warm body that's played at least somewhat well, though you may not, like him at the slot. You're going to end up putting him in as it looks right now. It is what it is. It's a fine signing, and it's still an upgrade to a room that needed upgrades.
Yeah. The Marquise Brown signing could be a big signing for him. It might be underwhelming. Who knows? Maybe we'll see shades of Tyreek Hill, Kansas City Chiefs Tyreek Hill with Marquise Brown. But I do like that signing though, because he's a really good complementary receiver to pair with Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. You've got your two guys who more so do their work underneath, within 10 yards. And so to get a guy like Marquise Brown who has that elite speed who can take the top off of the defense, it's going to help the offense out a lot because their deep threats that they had last year at receiver just couldn't get the job done consistently. Guys like MVS, who is a free agent now, you get drops downfield, and that's big time because why the defense isn't going to respect your receivers running downfield if they prove time after time that they're not able to consistently make the plays. So hopefully, for the Chiefs' sake, not for our sake, because we're tired of watching the Chiefs win year after year. For their sake, they're hoping that they can get consistent play downfield at receiver.
Sure. Going to the Raiders, I mean, are we going to sit here? Is it not Christian Wilkins? It's Christian Wilkins. Are we going to even take a second more on this?
No.
Yeah,
they paid him a lot, but he's a great player. He gets paid a lot for a reason.
Yeah, there's a reason to pay him that much. I will go ahead and say Andre James, solid player. He's a solid center. Get him for $8 million a year, not too bad, but it's Christian Wilkins. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about the Chargers here?
Chargers, man, they've made a lot of noise and not for the best reasons. Man, it's been a disappointing free agency for them. They've lost a lot more than they brought in. They haven't done a lot. It's hard to say what I like that they've done. I mean, they let go of their number 1 and 2 receivers. Letting go of Mike Williams, it's like, okay, it is what it is. He's injured all the time, and he hasn't played well since he was extended. But man, letting go of him and Keenan Allen, that's a lot. That's a lot of pressure to put on your franchise quarterback, taking away his number 1 and 2 receivers, especially after Quentin Johnston had an extremely underwhelming rookie year. But I mean, just to go through their signings, they brought in Gus Edwards, Will Disley, Hayden Hurst, Poona Ford, Troy Dye, Denzel Perryman, and Bradley Bozeman. It's just, I don't know, this is going to have to be another NA for me because there's not a whole lot there that's super impactful. I don't see any one of these guys playing pivotal roles next year in the Chargers making a playoff run.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying there. I like, Aloy Gilman, bringing him in back for 2 years and $11 million. He was a really solid player last year. 5.5 years, really solid for a guy to be a really solid role player. But you're not just pounding the table for that. Gus Edwards as well, flipping Harbaugh coaches. I mean, once again, the numbers look great. 3.25 for each year for 2 years. That's really solid. But it's not the best thing ever. Nothing really there to just really, really be excited about. Going to the Rams now. They've spent money, and it's been in about 3 spots, and it's guard, tight end, and corner. So, whatever that means for you. I do really like the addition of Cameron Curl. Really solid player in a safety position that's, they just need talent, period, across the defense, across the offense. Outside of basically quarterback, their number 1 and 2 wide receiver, and well, I was going to say Aaron Donald, but he retired. Outside of that, you need talent. And, well, they got a talented player at a position that may not be the most needed, but for them it was needed because they didn't have a good player there.
Right, yeah. Us Arkansas guys like to see the Hawks get second contracts. That's cool to see. But I really like the Kevin Johnson re-signing. Mainly, he came in from Pittsburgh and elevated his play greatly. And the best part about it is that they're getting him for $16 a year, which for a guard, going into this free agency, you might be thinking, okay, it's a lot to be paying a guard. But when you see guys like Robert Hunt getting $20 million a year contracts and other guys that got paid around the same price, you think to yourself, man, if that's what the guard market's at nowadays, then I'm okay with my team paying $16 a year for an all-pro guard.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. And then Jonah Jackson, they're paying for about the same price, just $1 million more per year. He was really, really solid for the Lions. So it's good to see them heavily investing in protecting their older franchise quarterback.
Yeah. The Dolphins, they have been extremely busy. Releasing players, re-signing players, signing players. They seem like this list is bigger than most other teams. I don't really know how they have made this many signings with the little bit of money they had. looking at the list, I really do think it's incredible that they got Jordan Brooks. They needed a linebacker. They lost a lot of them last year. They lost Jerome Baker as a starter. And Jordan Brooks, I mean, they got him, who he's a really solid inside linebacker for what is that? Maybe $8 million a year, a little more than that, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad at all. I mean, I really like that signing, and it's definitely a position of need as well.
Yeah, like you said, they've been mad busy. I'm looking at about 20 or 25 moves right here.
Easy.
Yeah, the Jordan Brooks signing, that'll be nice for them to get a linebacker in there. They've had relatively weak inside linebacker play for past, man, it's been a long time since they've had really impactful guys there in the middle. So that was a nice signing for them. I like the Jordan Poyer signing. It's only for 1 year, but it's kind of the interdivisional thing that we see a lot here in free agency, guys moving from one team in the division to the other. And that'll be helpful a lot. You know, he's a guy who's seen a lot of Josh Allen over the past few years in practice. And so, you know, I'm not sure how much that actually plays a role, in how these teams play against the other team the next year. But it happens a lot. So you have to assume that it does mean something. So I do like that strategic move by the Dolphins.
Yeah, he and Javon Holland together should be really nice. That should be a really good tandem.
Yes.
Going to the Minnesota Vikings, they've been somewhat busy as well, but also like the signings they've made are just not the most. You know, there's not a stamp on one of them to me. I think they paid Jonathan Grenard a lot actually. I mean, he's a good player, but that's a pretty steep contract. And then Aaron Jones, though, that one stands out to me. He was a little bit back and forth last year, but ended the season on a really good note. And you're getting a division rival once again at a position that may not be the most needed, but at his best, this guy is one of the better backs in the league, and he's only getting paid $6 million for this year. So that can be really nice for whatever quarterback it is, whether it's Darnold, whether it's a rookie. That'll be a very nice addition.
Yeah, I like that move a lot for them because you're getting a guy who he's older, and so he's older. But the good thing about Aaron Jones is that he does his best work whenever he's not asked to be a bell cow, and so he's a guy that, you know, they had Ty Chandler, who was a later round pick, rookie or second year player last year, who was effective at times. You have to assume they'll probably bring in another rookie running back or bring someone else in at some point to take some touches out of the backfield. But, you know, Aaron Jones is really effective whenever he's working in the pass game, or you just give him about 12 or 15 touches a game and he'll be greatly effective with those. And you don't have to ask him to really do any more than that. Just let the other guys that you have there at running back take the rest of the carries and leave that up to them. But he'll be an extremely helpful addition to this offense for perhaps a rookie quarterback like a JJ McCarthy, or maybe if they somehow make a big move up in the draft to get a Jaden Daniels or a Drake May, who knows?
Yeah. I'll let you go ahead and take the New England Patriots to give your take on your team first. What do you got here?
There's not a lot to like. What I do like, I'll say first, we have not made many big time moves. We've spent some money, but it's mostly been bringing guys back in house. I wish Kyle Duggar would have been extended long term, but he instead just got the transition tag. So theoretically he could be poached away still if we were unwilling to match what another team would pay him, but he hasn't been yet. So yeah, I'm not gonna say he's back for another year yet, just in case someone does steal him away. But bringing him back for hopefully another year, and then bringing back Mike Onwenu at tackle, 3 years, $57 million. You know, it's just the going rate for a tackle now, so you can expect to pay a lot of money for guys who get the job done out there at tackle. What I like about him a lot too is that he's very flexible. So he plays tackle, it's one of the more important positions on the O-line, and so you don't expect him to really move around to guard or anything like that. But for whatever it's worth, he's flexible. He came in as a guard and then eventually moved to tackle and played well, and so Also, our other side, our left tackle position is pretty wide open right now, unless Chukwuma Okorafor ends up being the starter and playing decently well there. So I like that we don't have two sides of the offensive line that are gaping holes right now. To bring back a solid player like Mike Onwin, is promising to see.
Yeah, Chukwuma Okorafor, Steelers legend. You're lucky to have that guy in your roster.
Yeah, I'm sure.
My favorite move that y'all have done, honestly, is Josh Uche because of the money. You're only paying him $3 million a year, and this guy has had at least a good year before. And yeah, he wasn't the best last year; it was a little disappointing. But you also saw last year that team was just—I don't even know if you call them disappointing. It just wasn't the best season overall. I mean, you lost Judon. You get Judon back on the other side of him and have the other guys be able to do their jobs and not have to take over a guy's spot like Judon, who is a really good player. It might make things a lot better for him. He might be able to do really well, and that's only in a $3 million cap hit. Should be really nice. Going down to the Saints, they've not done a ton. However, I think we're both going to agree on this. The biggest impactful thing is something that just happened within the last hour. Chase Young, 1 year, $13 million. Yeah, I think that's probably the most impactful. Or you could argue that maybe releasing Michael Thomas finally is pretty impactful too.
Yeah, it's sad to see that he's not quite the same receiver he was some years back whenever he was breaking records. But the Chase Young signing could prove to be extremely, extremely impactful for the Saints. I don't know that he makes them any more of a playoff contender than they would have been before. But on a 1 year deal, you kind of expect to Chase Young to get a prove it deal since he didn't quite live up to the hype that he had coming out of college. But for $13 million, if he performs at the level that people think he can, then $13 million is going to be a steal. The big concern with him is just that he's had some effort issues that really came up in his time with the Niners, where he just, plays would go to the other sideline, and he wouldn't be tracking the ball carrier. He'd be jogging or giving up early on pass rush reps. If he can get some guys, some coaches, some vets around him that can maybe just coach him up some and speak some life into him so that he'll play a little bit harder down to down, then this could be a big signing for the Saints for sure.
Yeah, they need a good edge. They don't really have a good real edge rusher. Cameron Jordan's kind of been that, but I mean, he's more of a 3-tech, bigger guy, DN more so than an edge. Either way, going down to the Giants, this one, I mean, I think it's probably the trade for Brian Burns. They only give up a second and a fifth and then a pick swap of fifths. Not too much for a potentially really good edge rusher. This guy's been really good in Carolina, maybe not that top tier, and the money they had to pay him is pretty steep. I think he's like the second highest paid edge, and he's probably not the second best edge. But, maybe getting him in a defense where there's another guy opposite of him that is actually pretty decent as well, and Kayvon Thibodeau, a young guy, maybe that does something for him. Maybe that makes him, a defensive player of the year, quality guy, who knows. We'll see, but he's at least a very large talent acquisition for the Giants.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Brian Burns, he's one of the better edge rushers in the league, and so being able to pair him up with Kayvon Thibodeau, that's gonna be a pretty scary pass rush. Mm-hmm. And you have Dexter Lawrence in the middle of that D line too. You got a lot to work with right there, and that's going to be no slouch of a defensive line for the Cowboys, the Commanders, and the Eagles to be going up against this next season. And so if they can get some competent offense going, then the Giants perhaps could be a sneaky wild card team. Who knows? Just depends what Daniel Jones we get.
Yeah, that's for sure. Daniel Jones is definitely the big question mark there. The Jets now, the other New York team. We have they've been quite busy actually. Maybe my favorite move is, I'm going to kind of combo two here. The trade and the signing for tackles. They got their bookends. Morgan Moses, a really solid right tackle. He's a vet, he's older, but he's a solid player. And then Tyron Smith, a left tackle. He's had his injury issues. However, the positional need is just so vast here. They let Mekhi Becton walk, and they probably justifiably so. But they replaced them with two guys who, if they play well, will be very, very good additions for this team, and that O-line needs it bad.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I mean, they haven't made a whole lot of other impactful moves necessarily. Um, those two stick out as the big ones. It's just good to see them investing in bookend tackles after seeing their franchise quarterback, who they invested a lot into in that trade, going down. Just 4 plays into the season last year, and he's up there in age, and so that has to be your number one priority going forward, is protecting Aaron Rodgers. And so if Tyron Smith stays healthy and Morgan Moses just holds it down over there at right tackle, then you got a lot to work with right there on the O line. That's good for Jets fans to see them investing in tackle.
Yeah. What do you think for the Philadelphia Eagles? What is their best move so far?
Yeah, they've been pretty busy too. I gotta say, I wasn't a huge fan of the Bryce Huff contract. It's a lot of money to pay a guy who, he's not a guy that you want to put up there in the tier with he's roughly similar to Jonathan Grenard. You get an impact a more of a breakout year out of him, and then boom, big contract right there. So we'll see if he lives up to it. But I mean, my favorite deal here probably going to be Saquon. Somewhere between there and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I like bringing him back a lot too. But the Saquon move's just big time, because we know there's a lot there left in the tank in Saquon. He was drafted as highly as a running back as he was for a reason. And $12 million a year, dating back to a couple years ago, whenever we had running backs coming out and saying that, they were demanding more money, to think that just a year later, Saquon's getting $12 million a year, you'd be like, oh shoot, that's a steal, for a guy who's arguably the most talented running back in the league. You let go of DeAndre Swift and you upgrade to Saquon Barkley, a guy who can really be a workhorse for you. I mean, I like it a lot. I love it. I love that deal for him.
Yeah, I think my favorite move here is getting their new starting quarterback in Kenny Pickett.
Right.
No. Yeah, that's really good. You're upgrading Saquon Barkley for only like $4 million over what you paid DeAndre Swift in terms of what the Bears paid him. Only about $4 million difference, but for a quite good jump, even though Swift is a heck of a player himself. I do really like that as well. There's just not much you can beat with that. Also, just going ahead and re-upping Landon Dickerson, you can't go wrong there. That guy's been elite since he's pretty much entered the league. Going into the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think their best move is getting rid of the national terrorist duo that is Mitch Trubisky and Mason Cole. Now, on a real note, I don't think you can. To me, it's Russell Wilson. Granted, he may not be the guy he once was, but we've not seen a quarterback that is at least. You can't say he's not a starter. He's a starter in this league, and he's making $1.2 million. Most rookies don't make that. That is. For a guy who's a starter, the value comparison is probably one of the best value comparisons in NFL history, if not sports history.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's hard to you can't really say that any of the moves they made are better than being able to bring in Russell Wilson for $1 million this year. I think it could be a really, really good move for Russell Wilson. He could. I don't really know that he is much less of the player that he used to be. I think he just benefited greatly off the situation that he inherited in Seattle. And I think Pittsburgh has the players in place to be able to implement a little bit of that Russell Wilson Seahawks team that he had so much success on. So if they can get back to the play that the Seahawks had with Russell Wilson at quarterback some years back, then I think we could see a lot of success for Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh.
That's fair. I mean, the Seahawks predicated themselves on defense, and the offense, they had a strong running game, and because of all that, the passing game was pretty good as well. Mm-hmm. You've got T.J. Watt, you've got Minkah Fitzpatrick, you've got now Patrick Queen, you've got all those defensive players, Alex Highsmith and whoever else. And then on offense, you've got Najee Harris, you've got George Pickens, you've got Pat Freiermuth, and whatever. The object is here, maybe you can get it back to that. That would be great. Going to the San Francisco 49ers, they've been a lot more busy than I actually realized they have been. I think my favorite move here is probably going to get out Leonard Floyd from Buffalo. He leaves Buffalo. They get him $10 million a year. Not too bad there for a really solid veteran edge, a guy who's going to be the opposite to Nick Bosa. I like that deal a lot, actually. I think that's really solid, and just after losing Chase Young, a big position of need.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's a great drop off there from going from Chase Young to Leonard Floyd.
No,
And if you're able to uh maybe just be a little bit more confident in a guy like Leonard Floyd who's going to give you more effort than Chase Young did, and then be able
right.
to pay him $3 million less annually. I think San Francisco's probably. I bet they're probably thrilled to be able to bring in a guy like Leonard Floyd after moving off of Chase Young. Um, I agree. I think that's a great signing for him. I will say though, I don't I haven't. Sorry for not keeping up with the Carolina Panthers. Not that they've been the bottom of the barrel for NFL teams the past year, but the 2 years, $18 million year contract for Yetur Gross Matos seems like a bit much. Um, I don't know. Maybe he has been better than I realized. But when I saw that signing, I was a little bit confused because I was like, is he worth $9 million a year? I don't know, but that was just an interesting signing that I noticed.
Yeah, I don't know that he's been that good, and I think the one thing I'm looking at where you're at too, Javon Kinlaw has definitely been a disappointment according to where he was drafted. However, I'd rather pay him the $7 million the Jets did than I think Yeturgos Matos the $9 million that they did. I think I'd rather have had Kinlaw back, even if they were both making 9. I think I'd take Kinlaw, but especially because you got Leonard Floyd too. Now Yetur is your third. Either way, what do you think about
Mm.
Seattle? What's their best move so far?
Yeah, they haven't been super active in free agency by any means. Um, I like the Sam Howell trade. I think it's nice. I'm not a huge fan of it because I don't know how much more upside he has than Geno Smith. But you're getting a guy who can, if you're not able to land a quarterback here in the draft, then move off of Geno and get solid quarterback play. But I really like the Leonard Williams re-sign. You bring him in. I think they spent a second round pick at the trade deadline this past year to grab him. And, he's a great interior D lineman. You don't come across a lot of great interior D linemen. And so you pay what you got to pay for him. 21 years, a steep number, but you bring him back and they're kind of similar to Detroit, where most of your effectiveness is coming on offense and your defense has been a little bit weak. And so bringing a guy back like Leonard Williams is a good step in the right direction for them in terms of rebuilding that defense.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Sam Howell trade myself. They didn't give up pretty much anything for him in another similar situation, but he played well last year in a pretty bad situation, in my opinion. He's got a lot to him, and that was really his rookie year last year. We've got a lot more to see. Not to mention, Mike McDonald kind of dodged questions on Geno Smith whenever he was doing his press conferences. Didn't really commit to Geno at all. So if they're going to let up, something for the future, some competition, Sam Howell could be a really solid option for that. I'm a fan. I also like Terrell Dodson coming over from Buffalo. They don't have the contract specifications up here right now, but he was a really solid player that was pretty underrated, and they need some linebacker help after losing Wagner and Brooks. So very solid pickup there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Going down to Tampa, what do you have here?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of their work that they've done this offseason has been bringing back some of their own guys.
Yeah,
I like bringing back Mike Evans. He's kind of a glue guy for Tampa. He's a guy that Tampa fans they would have been up in arms to see leave for sure. And at $20 million a year, I got to say that's kind of a steal. With what some of the top receivers have their going rates been, you could have expected to see Mike Evans sign for maybe upwards of like 25 a year. But to compare his 2 years, $41 million year contract to Michael Pittman getting 3 for 70, you're paying Mike Evans less than Michael Pittman. So you gotta,
right.
I mean, like he must have given him the hometown discount or something. I don't know, but I'd be thrilled with bringing back Mike for $20 million a year.
Yeah, and maybe it's the age that factors into that. That's possible because he is quite a few years older than Pittman. But either way, the quality of receiver, Evans is still better. And I'm going to say the same as you. It's Evans, except for one thing. I'm going to add a little thing here. I don't know if you get Baker Mayfield back if you don't bring in Mike Evans. I don't know because Baker, he wasn't necessarily, fully sold to go back to Tampa. And I think without Mike Evans, that kind of receiver, he probably doesn't go back. There's probably other better options out there. Maybe Vegas, maybe Denver. Better options if you don't have Mike Evans on that roster. So bringing him back does a lot for your team. Let's jump down to the Tennessee Titans. What is your favorite move they've made?
I haven't been a big fan of many of their moves. Quite honestly, not a problem with the players necessarily. The Tony Pollard deal is not bad. 8 a year for a guy who I kind of see a little bit similar to Aaron Jones in a way. It's not a terrible contract. I'm not a fan at all of the Calvin Ridley deal. That I think they drastically overpaid him. I think my favorite here has got to be probably the Lloyd Cushenberry deal. You bring in he's it's just a solid interior lineman, and it's something that the Titans have desperately needed over the past few years. So to bring him in long term for $12.5 million a year is a good signing in my book.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat as you. I don't really love any of these deals. They overpaid Ridley. I'm not a huge fan of Tony Pollard. He wasn't that great as an RB1. And he also is going to take a little bit away from Tyjae Spears, in my opinion, who I think could have been the next back for the team. Cushenberry making a lot of money and making the most guaranteed of any center ever, if I read that correctly. Pretty interesting there. Honestly, I don't necessarily hate the Mason Rudolph deal just because he showed to be maybe something decent last year at the end of the season. And Will Levis, he's your rookie. You're going to go in expecting him to start, but Mason can at least provide some competent competition at least. Make Levis, have to really show himself for sure. If not, maybe they'll will go with Mason. I don't know. But at least something there. You're not paying him much either. He's going to be your backup and a solid backup at that. Going to Washington now, what do you think here is their best move?
Yeah, their best move. They paid quite a few guys a good amount of money. But the move that kind of sticks out to me the most, I think, is the Jeremy Chin deal that they got. It's only a 1 year. They're bringing him in for $5 million a year, but he's a guy that was super effective with Carolina a little bit earlier into his rookie deal with them. And then he just kind of quit playing for him. I don't know what that's about. Perhaps he's just not the same player that he was 2 years ago. I'm kind of hesitant to believe that he suddenly has dropped off that far. I think it's just a case of maybe they just weren't quite using him the same way, and so he wasn't able to be as effective. But I think if Washington can bring him in and play him a little bit more as a box safety, a guy who's fitting in the run game a little bit more often than he is back deep in zone coverage per se, I think that could be a very efficient, effective player at just $5 million.
Yeah, I like that one a lot as well. I like a few moves they've done. One thing about him is you also got to think Dan Quinn probably is a really good coach to put him in a spot to succeed. Like we said, you've seen this guy be good before. So it's just about where'd that go. I don't know exactly, but I think it'll be fine. My favorite move, though, well, one thing I want to point out real quick on another thing. The signing of Marcus Mariota. 1 year, $6 million. You're not paying him much. Likely to be your backup, I assume. But this guy, does that point you to who they might be drafting it to? The more athletic quarterback, Jaden Daniels, that kind of, getting the backup similar to your starter. If they're expecting it as, one of those, him or Drake May or Jaden Daniels, excuse me. Might point something out there. I don't know for sure, but just an interesting thing. My favorite move, though, honestly, this guy did not play well last year, but Austin Eckler, if he does play well, you're not paying him much. It's about $5.5 million a year. And if he plays well, this guy's a quarterback's best friend in every way. The pass catching, he's a decent back. Not as the best runner in terms of a running back, but as a pass catcher, this guy does everything. With the fact they have Robinson, they don't need a runner. They've got their runner. This guy can be their gadget, do it all, go, from the backfield to the slot, whatever you need to do. and you're not paying him too bad if he works out. I think that is a really nice deal. That will
Mm-hmm.
wrap up every team's best move this year, though. Now we'll go into our top 3 moves of free agency, just giving our personal opinions. I've got mine ranked 1, 2, and 3 in order. What is your? I'm gonna go from third to first best. What is
Mm-hmm.
your? If you have yours the same way, what is your third best move this year?
Yeah, so my third best move is going to be Carolina bringing in Deontay Johnson. I like that deal for a couple of reasons. Two main reasons. One is that they were able to essentially swap. There was a pick swap involved, but it was for late round picks. But you're essentially bringing in Deontay for Dante Jackson, who, don't get me wrong, he is a good corner. But J.C. Horn emerges as your number one cornerback, and so when you bring him in, it makes Dante Jackson a little bit less valuable for your team. And right now they're at a place where they're trying to get the most out of Bryce Young on this rookie deal as they can to figure out, is this going to be our guy? And so I love the deal for them to be able to flip that number 2 corner for a receiver who has prided himself on just getting open and being an efficient receiver for quarterbacks. And so I think that's a big time deal. For sure for Carolina to get a nice receiver in there for Bryce Young as he grows and develops into hopefully the Panthers franchise quarterback. I think he's going to be absolutely crucial into his development.
Yeah, I will say as a Steelers fan, it is a little bit upsetting to see that that's all we got for him. I think Dante Jackson is fine, but I think there could have been a better offer out there potentially. Maybe it was from Kansas City, and that's why we didn't do that deal. I can see that. There's apparently a conversation there with us in Kansas City. They wanted him. But either way, we're not trying to feed them anything else that we don't want them to have. My number 3, I'm kind of cheating this here a little bit, not going to lie. I just put Bears because I actually really, really like everything they've done, honestly. They bring in DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, Gerald Everett, to be offensive weapons for what now we know is going to be Caleb Williams. If we weren't sure before, we were. They also bring in Coleman Shelton, the center from the Rams. That's a really solid center. That's where they had a lot of issues last year on the O-line, the center position. That's a solid upgrade. You also bring back Jalen Johnson, who many people really didn't know if you would bring back because he's asked out twice now in 2 years. And you kind of assume once he's a free agent, he just doesn't want to be there. However, they pay him. He gets his deal. He's back. Now you get Caleb Williams at 1 and still have the number 9 pick. They're setting up something nice there. The Bears it's a good spot to be in.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So my number 2, my second biggest move so far in this free agency is going to be Russell Wilson to Pittsburgh. We've already talked about it. We exhausted it a little bit earlier, but I mean, just to talk on it again, I mean, you're getting for $1 million. I mean, like you said, it's probably one of the best value deals in all sports history. Getting a guy like Russell Wilson, who's proven to be a legitimate starter in the league for sure, seasoned veteran for $1 million a year, when realistically, if he hit the open market and was able to be signed for, a larger contract, obviously he couldn't because of the restrictions they have, and he's being paid by Denver. He's getting paid a lot by Denver. But this is a guy that could have gone out and earned himself $30 million perhaps. So Pittsburgh's saving a lot of money on a guy who he is a really good quarterback, and I think he just needs to be in the right place to succeed. And I really could see Pittsburgh being a place where he finds plenty of success. That's going to be a really big pickup for him if he can get back to the play that he was at back in Seattle.
Yeah. My number 2 is going to be that Danielle Hunter deal to the Texans for the multiple reasons like you said, we kind of talked about. You're paying him, tier 2 edge money to be a tier 1 edge. You're also pairing him with Will Anderson. You're also putting him on a team that's prepping to try to do something in the rookie deal window of their quarterback, who proved to be really solid last year, if not really good. Just a lot of good things there. Value contracts for the most part. He's a little older, but I don't know if you want to call him your 1 edge rusher or your 2 edge rusher, but either way, him or Will Anderson, it's fine. You're doing good on that note.
Absolutely, yeah. I I feel like our 1 and 2 are flipped because my number one free agent signing move this year in free agency so far is that Danielle Hunter move by the Texans. I just think I don't think they could have made a better individual signing this year. You're getting the top edge rusher off the market. And you're pairing him next to Will Anderson on the other side, who's got tons of potential as an edge rusher. And you're at a place right now with the Texans where you got your franchise quarterback on a rookie deal. You're not paying Nico Collins much right now, who he's emerged to be a great receiver for them. Tank Dell's obviously on his rookie deal. He's very effective. I mean, you're not paying many guys on this team much at all. And so you're spending your money when you need to, which is whenever these guys are on the rookie deals. They're not being paid much. They're healthier now. They're more athletic than they'll ever be at any point in their career. And I mean, I'm just in terms of individual moves, I think the Texans just hit it out of the park, and I think it's going to prove to be extremely effective in many different ways for this team, both offensively for the Texans as well as defensively.
Yeah, it's a really good deal, and you just can't deny that. And you were absolutely correct. My number one is Russ to Pittsburgh, and it's simply because of the value. I think if he does reemerge, you're looking at a potential. He could be around that 10th best quarterback in the league. I don't think he's going to be a ton better than that, but I think that's reasonable. I mean, he could be a Jared Goff, a Kirk Cousins. He could be in that tier for sure for $1 million, not $40 million, $1 million. Then, at his worst, if you want to call the last 2 years his worst, he's still a starter. He's still between, the 20th and 25th best quarterback. He's not been that bad. The situations in Denver with Nate Hackett are just, you don't even have to talk about that. That's off the table. Last year, they opened the season with one of the worst defensive showings for the first half of a season ever. You put a quarterback in a really bad spot when you do that. He has no option other than to throw. The defense knows it's going to happen. You're not helping anybody by doing that. So Russ to Pittsburgh, whether it works, whether it doesn't, the value is irreplaceable. You can't get past that.
Yeah. The one thing I thought of is that even if that Russ deal doesn't work, you still have him at value, because it would take an awfully terrible year out of Russell Wilson to make that $1 million contract not worth it. So essentially, there's no way that the deal doesn't work.
Exactly.
For what you're paying them for. It's just as simple as that. And it's not every year that you come across deals like that. So be happy while you can.
For now, we'll be happy, but we'll see how that turns out. Either way, that will wrap up this episode of Tuesday Night Takes. Thank you all for listening. YouTube, Spotify, wherever you may be. Help me get to 1,000 subs as we are on our way to that, and we will see y'all next week.